Oh, hello. In today's video, we're going to be discussing some recent Kill Team rumours about Season 3 Box 2, if you can believe that, and doing our own little bit of speculation on the back of those rumours. Vespid? Is it possible? Perhaps. So, these are from Chapter Master Valrak, as most, not quite all, but most of the Kill Team rumours that we get come from Valrak. Now, Valrak is, if you're not familiar with his channel, is primarily interested in Space Marines and 40k. So while he does get some Kill Team information, it's not always given prominence in his videos, and he doesn't always seem to have the background knowledge of the game of Kill Team to really explore the implications of the stuff that he's heard. But he does have a reasonable track record of being right about stuff. Although he has just had to row back on one of his rumours, so we'll talk about that now. So Valrak had previously been rumouring Kill Team Spacehawk featuring Terminators and Gene Stealers, and he publicly says in his video, which I have linked in the description, basically that he was lied to. So we can write that one off as not actually happening, which is probably for the best, because that rumour made very little sense. Like, people who are more established in the Kill Team community were going, what? We're going back to Into the Dark after one box? That doesn't make any sense. And I kind of thought maybe it was going to be the next season's like red box equivalent. But we can basically ignore that. That's done now, which is fine. He did say in his stream note was a video, he did say in his video that he expects the Season 3 Box 1 to be Scouts and Striking Scorpions, so he's doubling down again on that. And he expected the box to drop in September, and is as perplexed as the rest of us at the lack of a Nova Open preview for that box. Very, very weird that we haven't, and I thought about this in my live stream the other day. I think this is down to logistics issues at Games Workshop with their new warehouse. We know that they've pushed back Legions Imperialis for we don't even know how long that's going to be. I don't think Legions Imperialis is going to be with us in September either. That was clearly supposed to come out near the start of August. So I think that maybe Season 3 Box 1 of Kill Team was supposed to come out in September, and now it's sort of waiting after the logistics things to be sorted out, right? It's also worth mentioning as we talk about Valrak that he's previously rumoured an Eyes of the Emperor Custodes Kill Team, but there was no mention at all of that either way in today's video. So he did make cryptic references to the next Kill Team box. He said that Kill Team is apparently taken to the skies, and he mentioned Eldar and Vespid, and said things will be flying around. So first we have to unpack that remark about Eldar. Valrak just said Eldar, he didn't say Craftwell Eldar, or Dark Eldar, or Eldari, or Drukari, if you want to be technical. So I was saying about flying Eldar. The first thing that popped into my brain was Swooping Hawks. Swooping Hawks need brand new models. Now, would we get 2 Kill Team boxes, one after the other, with Aspect Warriors in? It's unlikely, but I don't think it's impossible. Are they, however, going to stick to the paradigm where we get one brand new team and one existing kit with an upgrade sprue? We don't know. I've said this before. Warcry, for its last season, got 2 brand new teams in every box. They could pivot to a 2 brand new teams in every box idea for us, right? That's possible. But if we reasonably expect them to continue with the standard thing we have at the moment, which is one brand new artisanal, if you like, team, and one team with an upgrade sprue, there are 2 Dark Eldar units that fly that could take an upgrade sprue. We could see the Helions or Scourges. I think Helions and Scourges with an upgrade sprue would both make fine additions to Kill Team, wouldn't they, potentially? Now, leave aside the question of would a Vespid versus Eldar or Dark Eldar Kill Team box sell, right? It doesn't have Imperials in it, that's an open question. Would anybody in this house want a Vespid versus Dark Eldar box? Maybe, maybe not. Not sure. Would need to talk to Mrs. TI about that. So that's something else to consider. Okay. Vespid, though, I've been saying Vespid. If you go back to my speculations videos, this isn't a rumour that I've been saying. It isn't something I've heard. Vespid just makes so much sense to come to Kill Team. Vespid ticks so many boxes, so they're a 40k squad that needs updating, right? But they're also kind of a weird part of the IP that needs to be explored a bit more, and maybe needs a bit of help to sell to bring it into prominence, you know? It is the best you're going to get for like a non-imperial equivalent to something like the Arbites or the Inquisition is the Vespid. I know the Vespid are part of the Tau army, and they'd still be usable in the Tau army, but I would actually quite like them to do Vespid like a pure expression of what a Vespid is. You know, like the crew kill team was not really anything to do with Tau. They were very crewty. I'd love to see Vespid without so much of the Tau gear on, just pure expression of what a Vespid is. Would be really interesting, wouldn't it? I also think that adding, whether or not we get loads of flying teams, I do think having at least one other flying team would be good, because it's design space that's not really been explored. We have Harlequins, a team that can all fly, and they're the only one. I mean, it's not like we have only one elite team and only one horde team. Like, the meta can cope with a second flying team because it's coping with Harlequins. And Vespid would be an interesting one because they have rifles, so they fly, but they also have infinite range in kill team, wouldn't they? So that would be interesting. It's an interesting new design space that it would be cool for them to open up a little bit more and add in, you know, one or two more flying teams alongside Harlequins. I could kind of see it. Now, there is a caveat for that, which is I'm not sure I'm prepared for a flying meta. So one idea that's bubbled up about what kind of terrain are we going to get for Season 3 is a sort of 40k version, if you want, of the Lake Town Jungle House pictured here. Because the biggest takeaway that you can have from what's been officially said about Season 3 so far is the prominence of water and waves and talking about water in all the releases. There's actually more evidence it's going to be something to do with water than something to do with jungle. For all I think, it probably is going to be like a Vietnam-style water in the jungle kind of a thing. Water is probably more nailed on than jungle is. And one way they could do that is by having a kind of floor is lava rule where the actual gaming surface that you play on is the water, and then you have platforms and things on top of that. Which could be cool depending on how they do it. You know, you could see that happening. They just have to print a kill team board with waves or lava or swamp or whatever they wanted to do, and then you'd have the plastic terrain that sat on top of that. I could see it working perfectly well. And it would be kind of interesting. It's effectively like corridors, so your movement's restricted, but shooting is less restricted. Because you can see across the water to people. Now, one issue that idea has, as cool as it might look, is it gives Harlequins a massive advantage, because they'd be the only, you know, you'd have the long-range shooting teams that would kind of be fine, although it would be hard to move around and flank people. Right, because I'm assuming if it was this, it would have to be fixed layouts like Into the Dark, so that you'd have because you'd have terrain pieces, and the corridors and things would be set out in such a way that actually you couldn't move stuff easily just to have line of sight over the whole board. Like, it's when you're constrained to certain paths, when you're on rails like this, it's much harder to get around and flank people. So I think it could be, the shooting teams could be balanced, but Harlequins would have a massive advantage, right? Because they'd just be like, that's cool, a whole new paradigm. We can just ignore that, right? Now, they still have to have the range to get from one piece of dry land to the next. So adding more flying teams into that, on the one hand, it balances things, doesn't it? Because it dilutes the power the Harlequins have, because they're not the only flying team, then other teams have that trick. But on the other hand, if there's only one flying team, then it'll just be like, well, people won't always play that, and you'll go to events and you might not come across Harlequins. If there are loads of flying teams that come into the meta, and they are massively in a massive advantage in this game mode, it'll be a bit weird. Now, maybe people will say that it's balanced, because if you're doing a mixed tournament, well, you've got this, but you've also got Into the Dark, where flying is pointless, and so it becomes balanced in the round. But frankly, I'm not, and that will work for the stats if everyone's running a mixed tournament, but I'm not that interested in things being balanced in the round. I don't think it's unreasonable. I want each individual game to feel like a balanced encounter. So that's a thing to kind of consider. Another potential issue with this whole flying thing going forwards is that we have had, again from Valrak, and we're all pretty much going to look, the whole Kill Team commentary out's going to look really, really dumb if the first box of Season 3 isn't Scorpions and Scouts at this point, because we've all basically gone, yeah, it's going to be Scorpions and Scouts. Scorpions and Space Marine Scouts don't fly, so it's not that likely we're going to get a season of flying if they've kicked it off with 2 units that don't fly. Now, because if you think about it, I had this worry when Into the Dark was first released, because the Navy breaches had loads of extra tech and rules to enable them to do really well on Into the Dark. They could open doors, and it seemed like the hatch cutter was going to be helpful, and then it turned out the hatch cutter wasn't helpful. But at first it seemed like they had loads of tools for the new setting. You'd expect if there was going to be one team that was designed from the ground up to be at a somewhat of an advantage in this new game mode, that would feature in the first box. So if it was going to be this kind of corridors separated by water or lava or swamp or whatever they do, and they were, flying is obviously going to be really powerful in that paradigm, you'd expect to see the flying team in box 1, potentially, wouldn't you? Now, they could do a theme for just one box, but GW has not generally managed to do tightly themed boxes before. Like, I don't feel like any of the Kill Team boxes have really had a massive coherent internal theme. The first one, the Krieg versus the Commandos in the little orc village, that was kind of reasonably well themed, right? Tau versus a Sisters of Battle Novitiate squad in some random ruins, not really. Corsairs versus Chaos Space Marines in a random, industrial, apart from the very first box, none of them have felt desperately themed. I guess maybe the first box of Season 2 with the Navy breaches breaching onto the ship was also kind of vaguely themed in the same way. So, I wouldn't expect a box to be Battle in the Skies, but maybe, Games Workshop does follow patterns, but they're not totally enslaved to them. Now, it's also worth saying, giving up a 15-20 minute video talking about something Valrak said. Valrak has just been very publicly had to row back on a rumour that he put out about Kill Team Spacehawk. So maybe he's wrong about this as well. Maybe his source is testing him. Maybe his source is being fed bad information by GW to try and weed the source out. This kind of thing apparently happens. It's all a bit cloak and dagger. And he was, if you watch his video, quite circumspect. He didn't say, oh, it's definitely going to be this and this. He was like, oh, I don't quite know what to say. I'm not trying to be a tease, but I'm not quite sure. There were a lot of caveats there, right? So, take it for what you will. I just felt like it was worth discussing, right? It's not like Games Workshop have given us much else to discuss just at the moment about Kill Team. Now, let's get a bit silly. Let's consider the possibilities if we were going to have loads of flying things suddenly enter Kill Team. Like, what could they do? We do know, or it's widely assumed, since the protagonist of the yet-to-be-released Space Marine 2 video game is a Primaris Marine with a jump pack, that we're going to get Primaris Assault Marines, probably previewed at Nova Open, right? Games Workshop would love to bring that kit into Kill Team. I'm sure they had an excuse because it's a Space Marine thing. And it would tie in nicely if there was an emerging theme of flying units. And there are a number of 40k. I had a little look on the 40k website, and I've put the images down the bottom. There are a number of things in 40k that could become flying kill teams if flying kill teams is what they decided they wanted to do with themselves. There's a good mix there. You've got, for Sisters and Admech, those are obviously brand new kits that would take really nicely to an upgrade sprue. And then you've got things like the Flamers, the Storm Boys, the Gargoyles, that I think are probably really in need of brand new kits. And would take well to being an artisanal team. Am I seriously rumouring any of this stuff? No, probably not. Am I seriously predicting any of this stuff? No, probably not. Is it kind of amusing to think about for 20 minutes? Yeah, I think so. So, it's time to wrap up with some final thoughts. Is this video a little silly? Yeah, maybe. But I didn't want to let I didn't want to let it pass totally unremarked, and then later down the line I'd be like, oh yeah, well there's always that Valrak take to the skies rumour, and then everyone on the live stream, whatever's like, what? I don't follow his stuff, what are you talking about? So at least now you know about it, and perhaps there is a grain of truth there. Like I say, Vespid will be really an interesting and cool thing to add to Kill Team. Harlequins are already there, and you can't put that genie back in the bottle, so why let them have all the fun? Obviously, perhaps not with terrain that would massively compound the advantage of flying, but I think in general, like, adding a couple more flying teams would be quite fun and cool. Let me know what you think, right? Do the subscribing, commenting, likes, etc. Consider joining the Discord. Give Valrak's video a look if you want to. It'll be linked in the description as well, because I'm basically reporting on that. And a big thank you to my channel members who continue to support the channel month after month with a real terms financial contribution. If you are a channel member, you've seen this video early because I'm actually on holiday at the moment. This video should be going up on Saturday or Sunday, I haven't decided, and I'm actually at Warhammer World right now playing in a Kill Team tournament while you're watching this, because I've recorded it in advance, because it turns out that's a thing you can do. You don't have to do everything massively last minute, and so if you're a channel member, you've seen this in advance, which is a tangible benefit, so consider membership. Have to give a shout out to Nightfall_EDH, who subscribed at the highest tier and is therefore entitled to be publicly celebrated at the finale of every video. Now that you could dilute his public celebration by yourself choosing to subscribe at the highest tier, then there will be two people and you have to share his laurels, and that would just be awful. Alright guys, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, cheerio, and I'll see you next time, bye bye.